Dr. K.K. Agarwal. With me, I have Dr. Nimish Desai. I have Dr. Nimish Desai, and he's the director of IBHAS. And sometimes back, I saw a series which came in Doordarshan, where we analyze various films industry. And I have been having an interest because I particularly feel when I interviewed around 100 people, that people have a great impact when they watch the movies. And they feel that nothing can be wrong. If it is in the movie, it has to be a real thing. So therefore, we started objecting to the type of CPR they are saying. The greatest harm regarding CPR campaign has been done by the film industry. The hero says, "Ab main ja raha hu, mujhe mat kuch karo, mujhe leke mat jao," and everybody agrees and they let him die. Even if it is a heart attack, they don't attempt CPR. So people think that CPR is not effective. If it was effective, it would have been shown in the movies. And even if they show something, that's wrong. दो लोगों का blood एक में लगा दिया, and they're showing people on coma without a Rayleigh tube, and they're showing people of memory loss and other things which they are trying to show. Let's try to see, taking some of the examples of the movie and trying to see what is real and what is unreal and what the message go to the public. Let's start with Khilona. Khilona was the original movie of Sanjeev Kumar with Mumtaz.
Yes.
And where he has been shown to be a person suffering from probably schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia, in all probability.
In all probability, suffering from schizophrenia. And then when he becomes all right, then he says, I don't know who she is, when she became pregnant with him.
Yes.
And the messages which is coming from that movie is that to make a schizophrenia normal, you need to sleep with him. And if the person, that schizophrenia has a memory loss.
That movie, besides showing those two wrong messages, also highlighted quite a few positive and negative elements both. But for me, what is striking is that that time, some 30 or 40 years ago, it highlighted the plight of what we now recognize as homebound mentally ill. Family members and relatives, friends, sometimes entire neighborhood, out of their stigma, helplessness and ignorance, lock people in. There is treatment available. They either don't want to go for treatment for whatever reasons, negative. They take people for treatment. Sometimes the treatment is not effective, and so they lock the person up. Here was this rich family, zamindars, and so they had all the infrastructure, the entire terrace. A lot of lower middle class and lower class households actually have this situation in thousands and millions. So for my first thought is that in today's time, we need to work towards removing the stigma, not to lock anybody in. The second major point is, as you said, a big myth spread, which is, as we all find, very common. A lot of people in the family and society believe that mental illnesses are basically bottled up hormones and emotions, and sexual needs have not been completed. And so if you get the person married or get him to have a sexual relationship, the illness will get cured. This is a big myth. Very often medical doctors and psychiatrists do get this question asked, and if we don't give a definitive reply, that's not very healthy. I do believe that we must take the responsibility to say that marriage or sexual relationship is no cure or treatment for any mental illness.
And what about his memory loss?
Memory loss is actually one more, I think, only convenient in script terms. There is actually no memory loss of that nature. The other point that was made, and that's almost every film.
Because in schizophrenia, 24 hours you are not in the real world.
No, of course not.
So therefore, it cannot happen that you say, yes, I don't know who she is.
And you keep lapsing in and out of those fantasy world as you have. But some of the features of the illness, they had shown well. At the other end, if you want to talk about recent films, there is a wonderful film that Aparna Sen made and directed, 15 Park Avenue. 15 Park Avenue was, I really believe, reasonably well, if not very well made, scientifically correct film, including the administration of ECT. Like you spoke about CPR, all of us in psychiatry, mental health activism field have this tremendous distress about how ECT is shown. I mean, from Jewel Thief to every other film, uski yaddash bulane ke liye, and for a variety of other negative, villainous reasons, ECTs are used, and big electrodes, and the person has big fit, and whereas in actual practice, for the last 40 or 50 years, ECTs are administered under general anesthesia. in one of the most scientific procedures. And here, in fact, I don't know if you'll agree or not, we have perhaps not discussed this, but I always draw a parallel with DC, intervention that you do in the cardiac care. When you give DC shock with cardiac arrest, in real life or in films, everybody claps because you have saved a life with timely intervention. Honestly, for me, I can't see the difference between DC shock and ECT. Much lesser current or for much lesser length of time through the brain that we pass in ECT. But because it is to do with the mind and the brain, and we all have this stigma about giving electricity.
So we have to start talking. Like I say, brain ka ECG is called EEG.
Absolutely.
I never say EEG. I say brain ka ECG.
ECG. Yeah.
Similarly, you have to say कि brain ko DC shock.
Brain ko DC shock dena. Absolutely. That would be very good to do.
That's the way we need to talk.
Yes, yes, I agree with you. So Aparna Sen, and I've heard her discuss this in one or two seminars. She actually went to 5 or 6 practicing psychiatrists in Calcutta, witnessed how ECTs are administered, and then showed it in the film. So I would individually say that this point that you mentioned of people lapsing in and out of the fantasy world is so beautifully demonstrated there. Third point, the major problem of burden on family members and carers. The person with schizophrenia or severe mental illness is in his or her own world. And while he also suffers, equal if not more is the suffering of the family members. In every sense, occupationally, socially, emotionally. That 15 Park Avenue describes and depicts so well the sister of the index patient, which is played by Shabana, Konkon Sen Sharma's elder sister, and the mother. The third thing that also is depicted very well is what we all know very well. People for the first 5 or 10 years go to a variety of sources other than professionals. Ojas and, jhad fook walas and what all. So that's 15 Park Avenue to my mind is another good, very well made film. The other film that occurs to me is not exactly very popular, I suppose, in our professional circles, but it's a movie called Crazy 4, where a lady psychiatrist played by Juhi Chawla actually takes 4 inmates, as they are called, and I would like to use the word inmate, but residents of a psychiatric hospital for a day out in the city. Except for some negative depiction of what I would call a cinematic license, I find that movie very interesting in as much as that it shows the dilemmas of people caring after, including doctors, mentally ill people very well. It shows how the society reacts to people with mental illness as and when they get treated and go and interact with the society. So Crazy 4 is a slightly outlandish modern generation film, but it's worth a watch. One film that's less known and that I want to highlight is a film called Basera. And this is such a real life story, it seems to me, and they must be so. Very briefly, the film starts with Shashi Kapoor, Rekha, happily married, with a young kid, their own biological child, one elder son in his mid-20s or later, who has a girlfriend, and everything is nice. The father of the wife, A.K. Hangal, is in his village. Everything is wonderful. And then is this letter from one of the mental hospitals to Shashi Kapoor saying, your wife, who has been with us for 15 years, is now well and please take her back. Which is played by Rakhi. Okay. Now, then it's of course depicted that when Rakhi was sent to the mental hospital, the father itself of the bride convinces the younger sister Rekha to get married and live with the family, presuming that Rakhi is never going to come back. Now, this rehabilitation that we keep trying to do, reintegration, also has its, very poignant issues. The entire film is so beautifully done. Rakhi is brought back to the household. The young child cannot be shown. So he goes to live with the girlfriend of the elder son. The elder son, of course, is the biological child of Rakhi. So he's shown as grown up, going to college or picking up a job or something. The father comes in. Rekha is shown as a young widow who was married somewhere else, but is now a widow. So she's here to look after the household. And the entire movie is this poignancy and the finer nuances and the contradictions of a small family that sometimes the illness destabilizes, but sometimes we destabilize by reintroducing the person. The fascinating part of it, and not that we would support it, this movie is called, I don't know if I mentioned, Basera.
And what are the movies where absolutely wrong things are depicted?
Oh, many. Almost any and every. Akira, latest one, I am told. In fact, almost you don't need to even mention the way mental hospitals and psychiatric wards are depicted. You know, people hanging in midair, people semi-nude, people talking to themselves, beating up themselves. Any number of movies. I individually do believe that while it would be good if they don't do so, you know, it'd be good if filmmakers were to be more responsible, like Aparna Sen. But to an extent, I do believe in cinematic license. And so, if people present psychiatry and psychiatric
No,
patients
why can't, I personally feel is that all those movies where they depict wrong.
we should list and...
No, we at an IMA and with people like you, let us, if the next movie comes, we are willing to file a PIL.
Okay.
Okay. Now, like Sham Bengal has done it for smoking. He says, allow smoking, I don't mind. But before the film starts, let the same characters who have done the role, in a 30 seconds ad, they talk about anti-smoking. Similarly, if you are doing something wrong, suppose you're showing that you're shown a asylum, then you should have the same person who have done the acting in a 30 seconds role before the movie starts. They should start about mental health. He says whatever we are showing is not true. This is a fiction. The true picture is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Like almost every other
This
idea.
can happen. So this can happen.
I know. Like every other idea, this is brilliant.
This can
Honestly,
happen.
this is brilliant. And I'm totally with you. Let's do
We are
that.
not talking about ban
Let's
the
do that.
movie. We are
Right.
not talking about
Right.
you have a right. But if you feel that this message is going to
Can go with...
can go into the community and cause more harm, at least we can pursue them to have a 30-second message.
And it's your duty to also give the other part of the picture.
Other part of the picture, the real picture.
Yeah, the real picture. Oh,
so,
yes.
So we need to find out. IMA, on behalf of IMA, we are willing to fight.
Perfect.
You go to the court, file a PIL,
Yeah.
do everything. But
Sure.
then, so we need those the incoming movies. Previously, we may not be able to go, but the incoming movies,
Sure.
if we find
New ones.
anything is going
Sure.
wrong,
Done.
depression, schizophrenia,
Anything.
and then suicidal.
Or indeed any aspect of psychiatric practice or mental health practice. Indeed, our friends often get worried, and this we may not take to PIL, but the way psychiatrists are depicted. You know, I mean, I am first one to accept that unfortunately society tends to believe that psychiatrists are themselves half affected by what they practice. See, I see your smile too. I know, बाल निकले हुए, you know, आधी shirt निकली हुई है types.
Typically, वो जो है, जो step तो लगाना नहीं
You know,
आता.
which is very sad. But yes, it does, and this is a crucial part. This is again where we should do something. See, what worries me is some of us might have lived through that and come to terms with that. This is how the society.
If I can fight, my first priority will be to fight that depression is an illness.
That absolutely.
And psychiatrists are also doctors who are treating illnesses of a depression, and depression is reversible. There is no stigma attached in Mediclaim and PSUs and other things. And for that, I can come back with something different, a very simple solution. If all of you agree, let's change the name.
Okay.
Let's not call depression as depression.
Okay.
Say the branding, the marketing it says is if one product is getting a negative, reintroduce that product with a
क्या
different
कहना है
name.
उसको? हाँ, क्या
Call
कहना
something different.
है?
Call something different. I mean, find out a solution. Call something different. You had changed. I mean, we have changed. We don't call ED. We don't call them as impotence. We shifted from
Right.
impotence to erectile dysfunction. We did change the name of impotence. Now, calling impotence, we don't call prostitutes female sex workers to rehabilitate them. But now the stigma of depression is permanent. You can't change. Change the name. Call them as something different as a call. Let's sit together and find out a name so that is accepted in the society as a disease. And let's not call it as a.
But you also realize that a lot of you medical colleagues and a lot of our own psychiatric colleagues, in fact, give the term depression to the family even for the severe mental disorders. The point that I'm making is that amongst the psychiatric disorders, depression is considered the least or the less stigmatized. So the contrary viewpoint to what you are saying, just to complete the discussion, is that a lot of people in this society seem to think कि अच्छा इसको तो depression हो गया, कोई बात नहीं. So do we need to change that, or do
No,
we need
I'm
to?
talking about let the term depression stay as a reactive depression. कोई मर गया तो डिप्रेशन में चला गया, लॉस हो गया तो डिप्रेशन में चला गया, fine. But when I call it as a more than 2 weeks, 50% of the time, pervasive, persistent, which is treatable, which is reimbursable, that just change the now. We can call them as, we can say hyposerotonism, something like that.
I know. There have been suggestions to that effect.
Something which is chemically, I mean, some other name needs to come.
One must.
Like you have come out with counseling as a cognitive behavior therapy, which is nothing but counseling, but you have given a name. To Shavasana, you have given a name called progressive muscular relaxation. Okay. To Asana, you have given a name as parasympathetic postures. To lifestyle, you have come out with a parasympathetic lifestyle. So we have name terms. So if we can change the name, we can come out with even schizophrenia. I don't know, schizophrenia still maybe.
What I'd love to do, KK, is now that we are going a little more in terms of celebrity endorsement and support for mental health, which is great. If we can convince some of these people to make films which can be entertaining and realistic still, I think it should be possible. Even to convince people like Karan Johar and Deepika, sit down with 2 or 3 of us. There are ideas which can be brought out, which will highlight the social aspect,
Right.
as well as
our associations are rich enough. We can hire a script. No. See, hire a script person. When the script is ready, then go to them.
Right.
Give them a script.
Fair enough.
They're looking for ideas.
Let's do that.
They're looking
Okay.
for ideas.
Okay.
If they can't,
Let's
they're
do that.
documentary.
Yeah.
See, these people are looking for an idea. If you write, a script writer will charge say 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's
I'm
become a
even
script.
happy to be the feeder to the script.
And then if you have a script writer and if you have a good script, if they are not willing,
Then-
the government can give you 2-3
Can
crores
make, yeah.
and we can give it to a director to make a film.
There was a gentleman who recently passed away, and so maybe we should pay tribute to him. You keep traveling all over the country. I don't know if either of you has heard of a gentleman, our colleague, called Ashok Pai in Shimoga.
Yes.
Ashok Pai passed away last week. This is one gentleman who actually got into filmmaking, a practicing psychiatrist. I think his daughter is also a psychiatrist. He actually made a lot of good films in Karnataka, in Kannada language, and they were pretty well received. So what you're saying is a possibility. Our tribute to Ashok Pai would be to say, and Mohan Agashe, of course, is an active mental health professional and film person. So if you can get Mohan and a few people involved, and as a tribute to Ashok Pai, actually start what you are saying. Let's do that.
So let's do something different. I always say be different, and if you're going to be different, you can actually make a difference. And next time when you see a movie, if you find something is going wrong, call us, inform us. Maybe mental health, maybe anything else. Maybe I am able to be able to help change the way perception is there. I can tell you, the number one cause of female feticide in India is Lalita Pawar. In every movie, मुझे लड़का चाहिए, मुझे लड़का चाहिए, मुझे लड़का चाहिए, दूसरी शादी कर दो, इसको मार दो, इसको वो कर दो. And that's one. And two, the number one cause of CPR failure in our India is again movies where they are trying to say, अब मुझे छोड़ दो, मुझे कुछ मत करो, let me go. As if he knows that he's going to die. And that is not predictable. Nobody can say like that. And third is the way mental health is predicted, the way pagal khanas are predicted. That's not correct. चाहे वो खलनायक हो, चाहे वो कोई और भी movie हो, let's change the society. Let's at least come out with the same say as Shyam Bengal has said.